The following is a conversation with Sarah Haider. Sarah is the digital manager for conversational AI at Salzburg AG. AG is Austrian for AG. You didn't realize I could speak Austrian, did you? Salzburg AG is a utilities company and an infrastructure company based in Austria, and it's been utilizing conversational AI since 2018, I think it was. At the time, it was an NLU-based chatbot and performed pretty well. We talked to Sarah about the results that chatbot was achieving and the performance that it had before the launch of ChatGPT, and the reasons why Salzburg and Sarah managed to and decided to move towards a more generative AI-based approach. If you've got a chatbot that works really well, why do you need to change it? And the answer is so that it actually performs even better. And I talked to Sarah about the process taken to go from a rule-based, natural language understanding-based chatbot to a generative AI-based chatbot using retrieval-augmented generation. And we walk through step-by-step exactly what needs to happen, from identifying customer needs, auditing your content, rewriting and redesigning your content, ingesting it and chunking, writing your prompts, testing your prompts, quality assurance, and putting it live, and the impact of putting it live and what the impact that has on customer experience. If you are even remotely interested in, one, the process to create an effective retrieval augmented generation based chatbot, and two, how to migrate or update your traditional NLU based chatbot to leverage generative AI capabilities, this is a conversation that you do not want to miss. Here we are. Without further ado, this is Sarah Haider on VUX World. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Kane.
How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. How are you?
I'm very nice, thank you. Very good. Thank you for joining me. Appreciate you spending the time. It's been a long time coming, this, and it's my fault for rescheduling a bunch of times, but I appreciate you persevering and joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I mean, it's a great pleasure also for me to be here. And busy last quarter, 24 on your side, on my side. So it took a while, but at the end, we are here, and that's what counts.
Here we are, exactly. So for those that don't know, maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself, your role. It's digital manager for conversational AI, am I correct?
Yes, you're right.
So tell
I'm
us a bit
Sarah.
about your role, and a bit about Salzburg and what you do there.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Sarah. I'm living in Austria and working in Austria in Salzburg. For all those who don't know Salzburg, maybe they know Mozart or The Sound of Music. This is where Salzburg is.
Nice.
And I'm working for the energy provider in Salzburg, but we see us more than an energy provider. We see us as a green tech company because we also offer a lot of other products like telecom or photovoltaic, e-mobility, parts of the public transport. And I'm working there for nearly 10 years now, and since 2018, I'm responsible for the whole conversational AI stuff, and I'm building AI agents every day.
Nice. And energy companies seem now to be more like infrastructure companies, don't they? Because a lot of energy companies now, they've got telco networks, they've got kind of broadband, and they've got it's more of an infrastructure than it is purely energy these days.
Yes, it is. It's definitely like that. So also in Austria, the whole energy sector went through a change the last 20 years or 25 years, I would say. Before that, it was where you live, you have one energy provider and that's it. And this market is open now for quite a long time. And therefore, you need more products and you have more infrastructure parts, yes, but I think the big challenge is that we offer products that are not so sexy, but everyone needs them. And most people don't actually realize that they have so many touch points with our products every day until something is not working. So that's the infrastructure part. I think it's a really important industry, and it becomes even more important within the next, I would say, decades, with all the temperature is going up in the world and the clean energy we need. But yeah, I would say it's also an industry that is not really known for being innovative and fast and creative, but we try to do it differently.
Well, you say that, but I was talking to 2-3 podcast episodes ago, Alana Martin from OVO Energy in the UK, and in a similar situation to you, really, that have had AI solutions in play for quite a number of years. And, you know, you say that the energy sector might not be that innovative, but, I mean, it's probably one of the earliest industries to adopt AI in any kind of shape or form, really. Like, what is it about the energy industry that, I suppose, makes AI or conversational AI so appealing?
Good question. I mean, it's I wouldn't say that the branch by itself is like really innovative. I mean, when we have a look in Austria, we have a lot of energy providers, and there are currently, I think, 2 using conversational AI within like their customers. So I think it's always depending on how is the company really working, what's the CEO, what's the strategy, and so on. But I think that energy providers, I mean, I can just talk for Austria, yeah. We have a kind of luxury that our customers do not change so many times their energy provider. But so we have really a stable group of customers. But we know that the customer, the age and the way how they behave with us is changing and will change even more in the next years because the age is just different. Yeah, we have the digital natives, we have the people that don't really want to talk on phone and want to have some self-service possibilities first before they talk to a human. And I think that what also, I mean, we cannot say, oh, this is I would say a secret, that energy providers are mostly, at least in Austria, owned by the public, by the country, or by the city. We in Austria see that we have in different energy providers, or had in the past, some innovation challenges, some things going on where the industry thought, okay, we need to show that we can do better, that we can be innovative, that we care about the customers, that we see the translation, the transfer that is coming up with the contact ways. And I think this is where it comes from, that they started quite early. Right. But I cannot speak for at least all the European countries, but because I can see that in Germany, they have a higher a higher churn rate than we have. So the state there is completely different, and the base. But we are in a good position that we can really focus on the customers we have and how to work with them together and how to communicate with them in the future.
Nice. Brilliant. And we were talking kind of before we started recording there about your journey in conversational AI, beginning around about 8 years ago or so. Pre-generative AI, and we're going to talk about generative AI today, but can you tell us a little bit about the history at Salzburg and in terms of like its adoption of conversational AI and all that kind of stuff, and like where it started and where you got to pre-gen AI, I suppose?
Sure. We started early in 2018. At this point, we knew that, as I also mentioned before, that the way we will communicate with our customers will change, and that we always said we want to be one of the first movers. We want to show the rest of the industry how you can do it, and therefore we started within an innovation challenge to search for. At that time, startups offering some conversational AI solutions for us. And we had this idea for the Salzburg AG, creating a digital assistance, but we have a lot of daughter companies, so also creating assistants for them. At this time, Alexa and Google were quite high, so we thought, okay, we also need to do something as an Alexa skill also. And we started 2018, and in April 19, Leah is our digital assistant for Salzburg AG, went live on our website as a web chat, completely NLU-based, a few rule-based intents, of course, but mostly really a good NLU. I think it was at the end of 2022 when GPT came up and this hype started and everyone was like, Sarah, are we doing something with that? And I was like, okay, let's just breathe and see what we can do. Yeah, and this is how we started. And what is her job? She is there to actually guide customers through the products and the solutions we offer. And this is a big range we have. So that's also, I think, a challenge for any digital assistant to deal with so many different topics. But you can also order products via Leia, and she has also handover integrated. And yeah, just to give you maybe a range, we are local energy provider, so not the huge company. We have about 350,000 customers, and so she has about 160,000 messages written with her per year. But she can, even without LLM, deal with about 400 intents. So that's quite big. Yeah, and that was the status, I would say, like till at the end, it was 2023, till we started using LLMs or integrate LLMs.
Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, that's quite a good level of maturity to get to 400 intents without generative AI and to be able to, have a decently tuned NLU model and all that kind of stuff. What was like, before we get to the LLM stuff, what was the kind of like, I suppose, the business impact or the outcomes that Leia, did you say that what she was called?
Leia, yes.
Leia.
Yes.
What was the kind of like, how are you measuring success, I suppose, before 2022, 2023?
It's so when we started developing her, we were not that return of investment driven because we were like, we did it in baby steps and we said we want to be the first one and so on. But at the end, I needed some KPIs and some goals. And we said, okay, we see that our call center agents are dealing with so many calls, but they are not necessarily answered by an agent. They also can be answered by a chatbot. So one big goal was to give them more time for the complex topics. We have topics. Imagine you cannot pay your energy bill. This is something maybe you want to talk to a human because it's a bit sensitive and you maybe feel ashamed of that. And some other topics where you really need the knowledge of a human agent. But there are so many topics you don't need them. So that was the first goal. And the second goal was that we see how can we reduce the calls in the call center. And we currently have about 2,500 calls less each month. So that's good. And we thought, okay, we need a high solution rate. So a high first solution rate is important. It's not so easy to find a good way to calculate that for a chatbot, I think. I talked to a lot of people how they are doing it, because you can, or a question you always get is, okay, and you started your chatbot and how many calls do you have less now? And I say, but you can't compare that. It's like Apple and something else, because in the meanwhile, other topics coming up, topics are there that are not in the chatbot and so on. But we found a way to calculate that, and we have around 70% of really first solution rate answers. And this is how we started measuring if this is good, if we can keep this level, or if we are going down, or if we are going up. And what we also have is a rating, a possibility for the customers, and we have a rating possibility in hearts, so not stars. We decided to go with the hearts. I think it's more, it's sweet.
Yeah.
And we have about 89% giving her 4 or 5 hearts.
Nice.
Within a conversation. And this shows us that customers are happy, that are satisfied, that we can have an impact on the call center, that we have processes for the customers integrated. We see they are working. They quickly get to their products they have ordered. And all this together shows us that we already before Gen AI were on a good track.
Brilliant. That's really good. I mean, I suppose that's you can't really ask for more than that, can you? 70% resolution rate. I think you're dead right. A lot of organizations use containment incorrectly. Calculating the kind of result of a conversation for us in the NLU world has largely been a manual task in terms of like literally tagging the journeys to say, well, this point it's successful, and there's no real way of escaping it. Basically, you've got to do the work. But that's the thing that allows you to demonstrate the value, to be able to show that actually it's doing what it should do. So that's really good. So the picture is then you've been working with kind of NLU models for 4 years, maybe 5 years or so. You created an experience that customers love. You've got seemingly a decently performing NLU model and a design architecture and provision that is resolving 70% of cases. You're having an impact on the call center by reducing 2,500 calls a week, or I think you said, or a month. A month, yeah. And so what is it then that tempted you about generative AI? You've got something that works pretty well already. What are you hoping to gain from exploring a generative iteration?
Make it better. So no, a lot of things came up in my mind when this GPT hype started coming also into our company. And as I mentioned, my boss said, "Hey, Sarah, are we doing something with GPT?" And I said, "Hey, let's breathe and see what makes sense." And then I started thinking about is there something that makes sense? And yes, we have a good solution rate, but we also have topics where it's just not efficient to build the answers with intents. As I mentioned, we have the part of public transport in Salzburg. We not the whole public transport, just a part of it. And this is questions about this topic can be like, what's the price for the ticket, or what is the minimum ticket? How far can I go with the ticket XYZ? I'm 17. Which ticket do I need? I'm traveling with my daughter. She's 3, and I have a puppy with me. Do I need a ticket for that? So there are a bunch of questions around that topic. And you are not able to really build that with intents. And even if you have, 100 intents for all these topics, you will never reach this answer with this good context where you think it's individual. Mm. And these questions about the public transport are always in the top 5 of the questions each year. So I thought this would be the perfect use case to just try it out and say, okay, use an LLM with RAG technology and start a new level of answering and give a quality answer also on the public transport part. So this was the first use case actually we started with. We have more use cases now. And also for me important was when we started 2018, we wanted to be the leader in the energy branch. And I thought, okay, I don't want to lose this actually. So we are still, we were the first energy company in Austria last year who went live with an LLM integration in their digital assistant. And so it's different things that put me on that point where I said, okay, let's integrate it, where it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think you're dead right in terms of the limitations of NLU systems there. I mean, if you want to deal with the complexities of language to that degree and answer those very specific questions, you're going to have entities for absolutely everything. You're going to have all kinds of different sentence patterns, and it's just you're going to be disambiguating absolutely everything, and everything else you're going to be saying, I'm sorry, I didn't get that. So I completely understand where that comes from. And I also think that starting with a narrowly scoped area makes sense as well. So then you can start small, prove value and understand what it takes, and then roll it out and iterate it from there. So where did you kind of start in that respect then? I'm assuming that given that you've got a lot of complexity around the nuances of the questions, you were starting with some kind of retrieval-augmented generation solution.
Yes. And when we started integrating it, we also had to be sure of, is this the right use case where we can, I mean, the issue we have with LLMs still is the hallucination and that you cannot really rely on the answers. You ask an LLM 10 times the same questions, and maybe 7 times you get a really good answer, and 2 times it's okay, and 1 time it's just wrong. So facing this issue for us as a company who needs to give reliable answers to the customers, it was like a big step to say, okay, are we ready to just not 100% be sure that every answer, even in the public transport, is correct? Do we take this risk or not? And then we said, yes, we will take the risk, but we need our own knowledge base, because otherwise just an LLM integration doesn't make any sense. And this is where it was clear that we need the RAG technology combined with an LLM to have a use case that we can work with. I mean, I think that, or it's hard for me sometimes when I see customers asking her stuff that is not in her scope, because they think it's like with GPT, you can ask anything. And for companies, it's always you have to find your line. How do you use an LLM in your agent? We said, no, it's not a play around tool. It will always give answers based on the products we offer. And we won't integrate, for e.g., a small talk flow with an LLM just without a RAG technology, just to please customers who want to test it or play around. And so therefore, I think for the moment, there is no other way for us to use LLMs always with a RAG technology. Customer facing. Of course, we have different use cases internally in the bot where we try to find out, for e.g., you can give Leah your first name and she will save it. And then when you come back a week later or something, she will say, hey, Kane, nice to see you again. What can I do for you? But a lot of customers will not just give her the name. They give her the name and ask the question at the same time. And therefore, we are now testing it with an LLM. How good is the recognition of the LLM to see, is there a name mentioned and a topic? Is there no name but a topic? And to then maybe optimize the beginning of the conversation. So there are different use cases. We are using the LLM internally, but when it comes to facing to the customer, it's always in combination with an RAG technology.
Interesting. That's very interesting. And yeah, that's a really good use case, that entity extraction based on the name. Going back to the RAG situation, the hallucinations obviously are encountered when if you don't use any proprietary information. Of course, it's never going to understand your specific company and your policies and products and stuff like that. So that's one of the benefits of RAG. The other area where hallucinations do happen is when you retrieve content, but the content retrieved is semantically similar, but actually means 2 different things. And therefore, summarizing those things, it might conflate 2 different issues, think it's the same issue, and therefore you get, it's, I suppose, a hallucination, but nevertheless, it's an incorrect answer. And often that is a symptom of, what I've seen in the past is that companies take an approach where they just grab some data and throw it into a system and then hope for the best. So I'm wondering what your experiences were of making that stuff work well. Like, what is the process that you had to go through? I'm assuming it wasn't just grab content, throw it into a platform and be done with it. Like, I'm assuming there was stuff that you had to do. So like, what was it that you needed to do in terms of a process to get something up and running that you were happy with?
Yeah. The first thing we needed to make a decision, an architecture decision, actually, where to integrate the LLM. And I'm a fan of the hybrid way. So I think that our digital assistant will not be just based on LLM, in the near future. So I'm for the combination of intent and LLM. And therefore we said, okay, we leave the NLU at the beginning because we have a good NLU created after the last years. And we let the NLU detect the main topic. Yeah. So like, is it about public transport or is it about getting internet? Yeah, just to give you an example. And then within the public transport flow, we decided, okay, there we start the LLM. There's just the LLM, a direct technology. And when we started, the good thing was that we had so many user inputs from the past where we knew what are the topics that are important to put into the RAG technology and into our database. But the data we had wasn't good to fill within the RAG. So it took us a project actually with the colleagues from the public transport to really get the right data. And then it was a learning process about, okay, uploading the data into the database. Is the chunk good? Is the chunk not good enough? Do we need specific words? And also the prompting. I mean, the prompt we now have is huge. Yeah. And even it's not perfect. When you think, it's good, then you switch the LLM model and something that worked fine before is not working that perfect anymore with the new model. So a good prompt, a good database, and try and error. It's really trying out and then finding a good test schemata for you. Because how do you test an LLM answer before you say, okay, now it can go live to my customers? There is not like intent where it's always the same answer. It's tricky. And we developed something that works for us, and we are willing to take the risk that sometimes the question is not answered perfectly. And then it also comes again to reprompting. And also safeguarding is something that is really important for us. When we went live with the first use case last year, in January, we had a big topic. I don't know if you can remember that Air Canada had a chatbot that offered a customer the refund thing. And we had a second use case within Austria, where people just were able within one day to make the prompt injection and get everything out. And the chatbot offered women and men different jobs. And I was like, okay, we need to invest a bit more now in safeguarding that this is not possible for us. So I would say it's different small parts bringing it together to have a model now that is working good, where the hallucination is quite low. And with the NLU at the beginning, we can make sure that the matching is as good as it can be from the beginning.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a great approach, that. So it sounds as though you probably had to make some adjustments to your NLU to be able to then accurately predict what the generalized topic is. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And then the process you go through is to then identify the customer needs based on previous chatbot conversations, or is that based on other data that you've got from elsewhere?
It's based on previous conversations, actually. So when we stay with this use case, the public transport, we had so many topics customers were asking the last few years that we could make some clustering and find out, okay, these topics are so relevant. We need to put information about that in our database. And we also have topics where we said, okay, we make the clear decision. We don't put that into the database because we are not responsible for that. Like pricing, we are not responsible for the pricing. So we will never tell the customer a price because it's not in our area to create prices. But actually, we were lucky to have a lot of customer data. With the second use case we have with LLM is energy solutions. Within this area, we didn't have any user inputs, so we had no data to start from. We have the how are they called? The energy, like energy saving tips, or when you are buying a house and you need to build and renovate it. We are here and help you through this. but this is a topic that was really important for the company to put into layer, and it was clear we need to do it with LLM, no intents possible. But we had no previous customers asking for that. So there we went a different, or we chose a different way, and really I asked my colleagues to write down the questions they get from customers, and give me all the data they have. And then they gave me the data, and I said, okay, the data you got me wrong format. So it's always in try and error process, actually.
Yeah. But I think the real key takeaway there, which is that some technology companies that kind of sell this technology would probably not have you believe is required, is that you have to begin from a place where you actually know what it is that people, or at least have an assessment or a hypothesis about what it is that people actually need from you.
Yeah.
Rather than we're just going to grab some data and throw it in there. So I think that's a really important kind of message to drum home. Then you're in a situation where you've done that assessment, you understand the content you need, you've gone away and you've gathered it. Presumably there may be a gap analysis there to figure out what you don't have. And then you said that the content's not in a great shape. Likely that's because it's probably existed for a long time. Some of it might be out of date or whatever. A lot of companies have that. Data's coming from different systems, being written by different people. What were the kind of, I suppose, main challenges you had with the state of the data or the content? And then what were the steps that you had to take in order to make that right?
So let's stick maybe with the last example I brought up with the energy solution topics, where we had a lot of data, but no data about what the customers are asking. I would recommend really have a team that is working on that. So that's the first thing. I'm doing this it's just me and the Salzburg AG who's doing the conversational AI stuff. But when it comes to find the right format for your data, like it can be a PDF at the beginning, yeah, but maybe the PDF you have is really crap because it has a lot of pictures in it, and the RAG technology cannot really deal with that. But within these pictures, there are a lot of numbers or whatever written. So you need to extract that. And therefore, it's always good to have a team where you can say, okay, this is your part. You are recreating the data in this format I need. And then it's faster. And I would recommend really have some people within the team who know what they are talking about and who know the topic. I know a lot of topics of the Salzburg AG. Yeah, I was working in customer care. I really saw a lot of stuff, and I'm really close to the product team. But when it comes to the whole energy solution stuff, I'm out of the box. So it's not my part. And therefore, really get the right people in the team. And then also, I would say, grab a small piece of data at the beginning, adjust it, and try it. How does it work? And then I also would recommend, when you test it, give it people who are just not in this topic, because they are asking the questions completely differently than someone who is an expert. And then you can see, I mean, at least we can see that, okay, how was the question asked? Is that something that is in the database, or is that something that the LLM could combine? Okay, word A and word B is the same, because we have some specific words that doesn't make it easier for LLMs. And then again, try it. And when this small data is good, then you think, okay, you found the way how to create it and which format you need, then you can just go to the rest of the data.
So that bit there you're talking about is essentially you're reviewing documents kind of one at a time, but that's the manual part you're saying there. Is it someone somewhere has got to go through it all, figure out how it's best to be kind of like formatted, how it's best to be presented and stuff like that? You're talking about a manual process there, not a large language model assisted process, yeah?
Exactly, at the beginning. Because when you have a bad data and you give bad data to your LLM, it will still be bad data. So it's like when you have really not good process and you make it a digital process, it's still not a good process. So to have the whole chain work to at the end get a good answer, you need each block to be in a good shape. And this is starting with the data, then have an LLM and a good prompt. And there it's also a lot of testing about the temperature, how many, I mean, it's always depending also which tool you're using, and how many settings you can set by yourself. I know that there are some tools out there where you cannot do so many settings on your customer side because it's built in. But we are using a tool where I can nearly make everything as I want it. So I can set the temperature. I can say how many chunks can be involved in the answer. I can say, okay, what is if no chunk is found? So what is my default? So I have a lot of possibilities in setting that up, and then we also do a safeguarding, and then you have 3 chain blocks, and at the end there is the good question, the good answer on the question in best case. But you need all steps to be working together.
Definitely, that's great. And so you've got some manual handling to do on the data to get it into the right shape and right format, and so you're happy with it before you ingest it. You then ingest it into the platform. I don't know if you can mention the platform. I don't know if that's public knowledge or not. Is that
sure? Yeah, no, it's public. We are working with Cognigy.
Cool, good company. So then you've got the process of getting it into the platform and chunking. So again, another thing that I see happening is that data is uploaded into a platform. The LLM has a stab at doing the chunking, and then that stuff is just left as it is, and everyone cracks on. Did you do anything to review what those chunks were, whether they were adequately chunked and stuff like that, or did you kind of leave the system to it?
Good question. At the beginning, I just left it. So the chunk was there and I did nothing. And then I realized, no, sometimes the chunks are not the way they should be. And what I did is that I then went into the data again, and we have a possibility a bit of recreate the chunk. So, and I can go there and say, okay, this chunk, this piece is not correct in this chunk or makes more sense in the next chunk. So I can add information or delete information from a chunk. But what I can see is that the more updates we have and the more there is knowledge about the technology also on the provider side, it's less necessary to go really into the chunks. So currently, I'm in a state where I can upload the data, and I would say on 90%, I can rely on that the chunks are in the fine, they are created fine, and that they will give good answers because the right information is in the right chunk.
Right. And are you still reviewing the chunks to make sure and double check, or have you got confidence now?
Yes.
That you are? Okay.
Yeah, not every, it's just sometimes, I don't have the time to checking all the chunks. When you have about 3,000 chunks, you cannot check everything.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
For one topic. But I just sometimes go in there and see it, or I test it within the chatbot directly. And then I can see which chunks are chosen to be the best chunks. And then I can see, is that correct or not? Or I go into the chunk and see, is the information fine?
Yeah.
But mostly, currently, I can rely on that.
That's good. That's really good to know. And so, do you do anything regarding kind of like tagging various chunks and stuff like that to try and build relationships between different pieces of content?
Currently, no. Yeah. No, because but the thing is, I want to do so many things, but the timeline I have is so stuffed with so many projects I have that I'm happy when I've integrated one LLM project because the next one is already waiting. Yeah. And as long as I can see it's running, customers are happy and it's fine, I don't have the need actually, then I switch to the next project actually.
Yeah, brilliant. That's great. So the data is in the system. It's been chunked effectively and adequately. You then have the job of writing the prompt. Have you got any lessons from the process of doing that you might be willing to share with people who might be doing it for the first time?
Sure. It's hard. So I can say that right away. Because it's different when you write a prompt just for yourself because you need something from an GPT or whatever, or when you have a chunk that really needs to perform in so many different ways. We have the special thing that everything is in German, but I can say that prompting works better in English still, but there are some things I have written in German. So we have a mixed language.
Interesting.
Prompt, yeah. I would say what I learned is someone told me, Sarah, imagine an LLM as a 5-year-old child. And that's exactly what it is. So every single time you say something, you shouldn't do this, you need to tell the LLM what to do instead. And this was a really good advice, and I can share that because it works fine in our case. An example, when she needs to tell the customer this is the phone number you need to call to make sure that never ever there is a different phone number in the answer, then you have to tell the LLM to do that and why. So it's always like explain a small child why you should do something. And then it's try and error, and still sometimes the prompt is not doing exactly what I want. And therefore I would say a prompt is never done. You are changing the model, you get new question types, you get new customers, you are using different words, your products are changing, your database is changing. So it's never done, creating a prompt. This is my lesson I can share.
That's very good. That's really relevant. And how have you approached it? Have you got kind of like multiple RAG instances where you've got kind of like different service areas, kind of like, utilizing different databases and etc., so that you can have different prompts for each? Or have you got one big master database and you've got one big master prompt that seeks to kind of do everything for everyone?
That's a good question because we currently have different databases. So we have different RAGs integrated. But at the beginning, I was like, okay, where does this journey leads me? Is this somehow on one day I will have one big database? And I think, no, we won't. Because in our case, I think the quality wouldn't be really good. Imagine a customer says, I want to buy gas or I want to buy energy. It's really close. And also, but the process can completely different. And we have that with so many products that the risk that even the LLM is mixing up the topics and the processes behind is currently too high. So that's why I said we have the NLU in the first row. And in the second row, when we know the topic, then we use the RAG technology and the LLM. And therefore we have, I don't know how many currently, I think 7 or 8 different databases for different topics. And I like that actually. And I like the combination of having something that you can control, like the intent, or parts of the answer, and then combine it with an LLM and RAG technology to give it the maximum of flexibility. Because also one thing is LLMs are great in text, but sometimes you want to have a multimodality. You want to give answers with pictures, with links, but not links in the text, but nicely integrated. And then you need your smaller database to just make it precise for 1 or 2 topics.
Very good. That's very good advice. So then you're into the realms of testing. And for many, that is a manual process because it's a non-deterministic technology and every answer could be slightly different and every question could be slightly different. There's a couple of tools I've seen that look interesting in terms of automating some of that quality assurance stuff. But what I'm seeing at the moment at your likes of NatWest and others is that most of the testing is done manually. Most of the reviewing is done kind of manually. I'm assuming that's the same with you.
Yes. And when you are running an agent with an NLU, there are so many possibilities to just test it automatically. Yeah, like we have integrated a playbook. I press one button, it's testing itself, and I get the solution. How many intents were great, and how many errors we have. So that just takes me, I don't know, 5 minutes to check that. And we also were on this point where we said, okay, how should we be sure that the answers on the questions are reliable? And yes, we need to do it manually. And we created the schemata that each question, so we take, I don't know, let's say 50 questions for the public transport topic. And each question we ask 10 times. Mm-hmm. And then we have the the colors, green, orange, and red. And then you have a great overview when you test it 10 times and you have the colors and you say, oh, it's mostly green or orange, that's fine for us. So then we say, it's fine, we can go with this, and we know that, or we believe that the answer will be reliable. And when you see, I don't know, orange and red, for 10 times, you know, oh, there's something wrong. Mm-hmm. And we actually have good success with that schema. And 10 times is also, you can do that. I mean, you can test it 100 times also, but on one point you need to say, okay, cut. Yeah. It's like with a human. We also make mistakes. And I hope there will be tools in the near future to make it easier for us, because the more LLM integration and RAG integration you have, the more testing you need to do. Or you don't care about the answers and the consequences. I mean, this is also something you can do. I wouldn't recommend that way. So really, I hope that that there will be something in the near future, because doing it manually takes time.
Yeah, definitely.
And knowledge about the topic. You can't give it everyone.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's a few tools I know of that are coming out that well, yeah. In the works, I think that will be very interesting. There's a few things you can use, like the RAGAS framework and stuff like that, which is an open source testing framework. It's not perfect, but it's it's at least better than nothing. But again, I think even those tools are open to the same level of risk as any other LLM-based process, which is that you don't necessarily know whether there's a hallucination going on in the testing. But I'm sure that those things will be resolved in time. So that's really good. So what's the impact then? Going back to the original chatbot you had, NLU-based, performing reasonably well, 70 or 75% success rate, saving agents time, giving the business value. You wanted to make it even better through using retrieval-augmented generation in that one instance. I know there's probably other use cases that you've alluded to, but what's the sort of difference now compared to then in terms of how it's working and how it's performing?
When you start integrating an LLM customer-facing, let's just say customer-facing, it opens a completely new world of answers. I mean, to be honest, it's just so nice to see. It's feeling the customer when he lost his bag in the bus, and he can give him the right answer with the right context, and so this new dimension you have now of answers is one big thing that we see is completely different. And the second thing is that now she can be more helpful, because she can answer so much more questions than she could answer before. And this again can help us reduce calls again, or bad how do you say bad situations when you can't find anything on the website to this topic. I mean, a lot of topics of the public transport are somewhere, somehow on the website. But we can see that the people don't get it, or they have a precise question to this ticket, and this is not written on it. And to see the questions qualities raising is really cool. Yeah. So this is one big thing, and then you can start thinking about, okay, which topic is the next where I can start opening a new world of answers I can give the customer. So it's like there is no limit. I mean, of course, there is somehow a limit, because on our side, it's the hallucination part and the reliability. But just the possibility to add more value also to our customers, not just only on the company side, but also on the customers, because they get more precise answers and are more satisfied on a topic, which is, I mean, when you lose your bag in the bus, it's you are not in a good mood. Yeah, you are panicking or you are stressed, and I think it makes a difference when you get an answer. Oh, I'm sorry, you lost your bag. I keep my fingers crossed that my colleagues will find it, instead of here's the number, call it, and maybe you are lucky. So yeah, I think we can add value to also our customer relation we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
On our side.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's arguably that's the whole point, isn't it? Really. So as we sort of wrap up, then you began with retrieval-augmented generation. You alluded to another use case earlier on, which was essentially entity extraction, taking a name out of an utterance that's got a bit more information in there as well as a question. What are the other ways in which you're thinking about or are currently using generative AI?
So currently we have a second bot from our daughter company. She's offering products around the tourism of Salzburg, and their bot is just based, I would say, 95% on LLM and RAG technology. So this is really the first step where we said, okay, we are taking a higher risk, and there is, I don't know, I think we have 10 intents in there, so not more. But the next use cases I have, they are mostly internally within the agent. We have sometimes the customers write long answers or long questions, and sometimes there are so many different topics in there. When I read it, I know what's the main topic and what the customer really needs an information about. But for an NLU, it can be really tricky to like layer it, which of the mentioned topics is the most important. This is a use case. I want to have a look on it. We also are having a look on what is, if she has no answer, the default part. Can we then maybe go through again, rewrite the text, see the LLM, or have it the LLM and have a look on it, and what would you say is important, and put that again into the NLU. So there are different ways, but most of them are internally to make the bot by itself working better.
Brilliant. Well, Sarah, this has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for spending the time with us. That was a really good walkthrough there. I think what's really interesting about this is that there's lots of companies out there who've invested in machine learning AI solutions over the last few years and few decades, even in some cases. And a lot of them have got fairly well-performing chatbots, to be fair. Like some of them are working really, really well. But I think it just goes to show that good can be better. And I think that what you're kind of highlighted there in terms of that process that you went through to go from a rule-based, NLU-based chatbot through to one that's incorporating generative technologies in the way that actually makes sense, which is dealing with the messiness of language. I think that's the real strength of the large language model, is to deal with the messiness of language to be able to then, serve customers better. So I think that process was really good. And yeah, it's been a really, really interesting conversation. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It was great. And thanks for the time.
Will you be at Cognigy's Nexus 2025 event?
Of course.
They'll have you presenting and sharing the story and all that, no doubt.
No, I won't be on stage, but I'm there flight booked, hotel booked.
Good.
Of course, I'm there. So yeah, I think you're there as well, right?
I am. Yep, I'll be there. Yeah. I'll be back second year. It was a really good event last year. I think there was lots of really good companies sharing some really good case studies and similar sort of like details around the process they followed and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to it. I'll see you there.
Absolutely. See you there.
Nice one. And I'll put the link in here for those of you that might be interested. I'm pretty sure it's free to go if you're in around the Dusseldorf area or can get there. Last year's was a genuinely really good event. We had the likes of Toyota and IKEA and companies like that sharing their journeys and what they've kind of been doing. And so, yeah, get yourself there if you are available. March the 12th, I think it is. 12th.
I think, yeah, in the middle of March.
Yeah. I'll put the links in the show notes anyway, and you can help yourself. Thank you again, Sarah. Really appreciate it. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you again on the next one. Thank you very much. Bye now.